Welcome to LinkedIn Resume Builder. Today's class will be hosted by Jamie and myself, Madeline, with the Plano Public Library. Before we begin, I need to let you know about some ground rules that we set up for today's program. You will be muted during this class and we have your video blocked. You will only see the instructor's screen. At the top of the screen, you can find an exit full screen option if you need to get to other things on your computer, including LinkedIn. You are welcome to ask questions during today's program. You should see an icon at the bottom of your screen that says chat. Click on that to open the chat window. Chat is set to be seen by library staff only. Please note that any inappropriate comments will cause your immediate removal from the class. In regards to questions, we may answer you in the chat box. We might hold the question until a break or at the end of the program, or we might go ahead and ask the question at the time if it is pressing. In the reminder email for this class, there is a link for the course handout with additional information, which we will also share in the chat. A recording of this class will also be sent out in a few days. If you would like to watch today's class and then practice after getting the recording, that is an option. If you would like to follow along with your own LinkedIn account, you may, but please keep in mind that it will be difficult to give one-on-one assistance or troubleshoot during today's class. We will try to take it slow in case you are practicing along with the instructors.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jamie, and as we get started today, I do need to remind you that I am a librarian and not a business expert. The information that I'm sharing with you today is designed to be an overview and to help you connect with additional resources that may be helpful in your job search. So we have three main objectives for today's class. First, we're going to explain why it's useful to have tailored versions of your resume. Second, we'll explore how the LinkedIn Resume Builder lets you easily customize your resume. And finally, we'll share some tips for customizing the different sections of your resume. So let's go ahead and dive into that content. Your resume represents your personal brand. It shows a potential employer your skills, talents, and experience accurately and efficiently. So the strongest resumes are those that speak directly to your audience, in this case, the company you want to hire you, and deliver a specific message that you're an ideal candidate to interview and hopefully to hire. Tailoring your resume helps an employer see that you're a great match for their specific position. For the purposes of this class, let's assume that you're applying for similar jobs within your career field. You have the big picture experience and training that employers want. Now you're going to be making slight changes to your resume to make those skills stand out for specific positions and goals. You can work from the same base, in this case, your LinkedIn profile, and adjust the different pieces as needed. Here are some common areas that you can tailor on your resume to best match specific job postings. First, your summary. This section tells people who you are and what you do, so you can include keywords here that match the job posting. Second, your experience. While you won't be lying about your job title or making up information, you can use this section to draw attention to the things from your current or previous job that match the job you want now. Look for measurable examples that quantify the skills listed in the job posting. Third, take a look at your skills. Make sure the skills you highlight match what is needed for this specific position. Again, think about the keywords that you're using and specific examples that you can share. And finally, look at your accomplishments and projects. You don't have to highlight everything you're good at on your resume, but you can look for specific projects or accomplishments that best demonstrate the skills or qualities highlighted for this particular job. So for today's class, we're going to be talking about how to use the resume builder in LinkedIn to create custom resumes. We won't be talking about how to build your profile or navigate on LinkedIn. And if you'd like more information on that, you can check out last week's class on LinkedIn Basics for that information. We also won't be covering job searching with LinkedIn today. Tips and tricks for that will be covered in our next session next week. Today, we're only going to focus on getting our resume ready to submit. So the first thing I need to do is access the resume builder. So I'll go ahead and switch my window here. so that you can see my LinkedIn profile. Once you've logged into LinkedIn, you should be directed to your homepage. And from there, you want to go ahead and navigate to your profile. And I can do that just by clicking on my profile picture here to open up that window. In the top section, you're going to look for the button that says More, right underneath where your name and any profile information you have shared is. When you click on More, you'll see that option that says Build a Resume, and that's what we're going to click on. The resume builder is going to give you two different options. You can either create from profile, which allows you to create a resume based on your LinkedIn profile, and that's where we're going to be starting today. You should also see the option to upload a resume, which lets you upload and review an existing resume that you have. And we will talk about that option a little bit later in today's class. So for now, I'll go ahead and choose Create from Profile. And this will give me some options for editing. Now, the very first thing it's going to ask me to do is choose a desired job title. And this is what LinkedIn will use to give keyword suggestions for your resume. You'll need to choose something from the list that's provided, and you can start typing to generate a list of suggestions. So for example, I will just start typing and librarian comes up as an option. I can select that. Don't worry if you change your mind about the job title that you want to use. You can always change that later on. And if you don't want to have focused keyword suggestions as part of the process, you can also choose to hit skip down in the bottom left corner. We'll go ahead and hit apply, which will make those changes. Now, one thing to keep in mind as we start editing, the changes that we make here on our resume are only going to be visible to us. They aren't updated on your LinkedIn profile itself, so you don't have to worry about accidentally deleting or changing information. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should see a box for Resume Insights. And these are some tools that LinkedIn includes to start customizing your resume. So let's start by looking at the keywords. And you see here where it says keyword check, that's based on my desired job title. Your keywords are going to be targeted words or short phrases that relate to the specific job requirements. They're skills, abilities, credentials, or qualities that a company is looking for. Many companies will use resume screening software to review your resume looking for those keywords. This helps them narrow down potential applicants. To help with this, you can use those keywords throughout your resume, in your summary, in your skills, in your work history, to show that you really do have those skills. The Resume Insights can help us by checking our resume for the keywords. Based on the job title that you've selected, LinkedIn will scan your resume for common keywords, and you'll see those that are found in your resume, which means these are words that are already in your document. You'll likely want to keep those in while you're continuing to edit. Underneath that, you will also see these suggested keywords. And these are additional suggestions based on that job title and your work experience. You might want to edit some of your descriptions to include these words as well, if they're appropriate. Of course, if you don't think they apply to you, it's completely okay to skip those words as well. In addition to LinkedIn's recommendations for keywords, here are a few more suggestions for identifying and using keywords in your resumes. Review the job postings to see what keywords commonly appear. If you're seeing the same word over and over again in jobs that you're looking at that you're interested in, make a note of those words and you can drop them in as keywords in your resume. You can also review company websites to get a better idea of their needs and culture, and look for keywords that demonstrate a combination of soft skills, specific job skills, and industry buzzwords. Another thing that you can do is use synonyms to increase your chance of being identified. There's often more than one way that you can list the same skill. Now, do keep in mind, if you use acronyms in your business, you might also want to spell them out to make sure the system catches them. And finally, use action verbs that demonstrate your impact and examples that demonstrate how you've applied the specific skills that you're mentioning. Now, one other thing that I want to point out in the resume insights is this little box here that says formatting check. Since we created this resume through LinkedIn, this section doesn't apply right now. It doesn't include any information. The resumes that you build through LinkedIn that you create from your profile are automatically formatted to be compatible with that resume screening software. When you upload a document, this section is going to include more details. So again, we'll come back to that a little bit later. Are there any questions about keywords before we move on?
It looks like there's no questions for right now.
All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is work through each of our resume sections. Some of these we can easily customize and some will have more restrictions. So let me go ahead and scroll back up to the top of my page. We'll just start at the top and work our way down through each of these sections. So the very first thing that you're going to see at the top is your contact information. And you probably don't need to make too many changes here, but if you do, you can go ahead and click on the pencil icon in the right corner, which will pull up your editing options. And this section is going to include your name, which should reflect the name that you go by professionally, your location, which you can either choose to have as a specific city or a wider metropolitan area. So for mine, I've put in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex rather than being specific to the city of Plano. You also can put in an email, which should be professional and be an address that you check regularly. Some people do set up emails specifically for their job search. And then you have the option to include a phone number, which should be a good contact number for you that you regularly access. You can also check or uncheck to include your LinkedIn profile, which is likely going to be more detailed than the resume that you end up creating. And that gives the potential employer a way to easily link back and see your information. And if you have a website or online portfolio that you would like to link, you can include that in there as well. Once you've made any changes that you need to, you would just click save and that would update that section for you. The next section underneath your contact information is your summary. And this is a short introduction, usually no more than 2 or 3 sentences, that highlights your skills, experience, and qualifications. Basically, it's a really quick way to answer the question, why should I hire you? So to edit this section, once again, we'll click on the pencil icon in that right-hand corner. And on the left-hand side of the screen, I have a box where I can edit the information. And on the right-hand side of the screen, I do have some tips and suggestions for what I could include in this section. And so it would be really easy for me to go in and say, you know what, I don't need to include this additional experience. I'm going to go ahead and delete it. And I'm going to delete out a sentence here. Okay, like how it looks, and I'd go ahead and hit save. Now, if for some reason you decided that you did not want to include a summary, the same thing, you would click on that pencil icon and you would just hit the little trash can where it says delete to get rid of that information, and that would be an option as well. As you write your summary, you'll want to include industry keywords as an easy way to show that you meet those key requirements of the job. And you may want to include the most important experiences or skills that you want to stand out on your resume. You can also highlight ways that your experience matches the specific job posting using those strong action verbs and specific vocabulary to stand out from other applicants. Let me go ahead and close that window. Are there any questions about your contact information or your summary?
Looks like there's no questions. There is a question about the link to this recording is going to be sent out in a few days to everyone who attended through email. Is that correct?
Yes, there should be
Okay.
an email link sent out after the program. And you can also check our YouTube page after a couple of days and things will post there automatically as well.
Thank you. Oh, looks like someone asked how to hide my profile to companies or people.
So that's going to be separate from the resume builder. So we're not going to look at that just now. If we get a chance at the end of today's class, I'll pop back over to my profile and show you how you can turn information on or off there.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to move on to our experience. So the next section on our resume is going to be the experience that we have, which is automatically including all of the positions that are listed on your LinkedIn profile. This may be an area that you customize the most because you don't have to include every single job that you've had in your final resume. Professionals recommend that you include between 10 and 15 years of experience on your resume. Older positions can be removed or even listed as a simple group at the bottom of the page. LinkedIn will list your experience from most recent to oldest, just like it appears on your profile. And within the resume builder, you can't reorder that information. You're going to be stuck with that particular order. I do have two options from this section for editing. I can either use the plus sign if I needed to add a new position, which would pop up that window for me. Or if I already have a position on here, I can use the pencil icon to edit that specific position or even delete it altogether. Once again, you're going to see the text that you can edit and the tips from LinkedIn on how to write your entry. So each entry that you include is going to have your job title and your company name, your start and end dates, and then a description of the work you did, which again is a great place to include keywords. So within this, I could edit a position and say, you know what, this is a lot of information. I'm going to go ahead and delete out some extra things. This is looking a little bit long. And I can go in and just delete out the things that I don't want to include anymore. But it's not changing my LinkedIn profile at all. It's just changing what this resume looks like. And I would hit save to apply those changes and make it a little bit more concise. I could also choose to completely delete a position. So let's say that I've decided that this experience from back in 2004, I don't want to include on my resume. I would click on that pencil icon and I would hit delete. It's going to pop up a window asking if I'm sure I want to do that. I'll go ahead and confirm by hitting delete, and that would get rid of that information. And that lets me clean it up as well. And we'll just delete out another one. Super easy. Again, it's not changing my profile. It's just changing what I include on my resume. I can also use this to add a keyword from the suggested keywords to the description and then see how that affects my keyword list. So to show you what that looks like, you can see right now, LinkedIn is suggesting that I use cataloging as a keyword. If I were to go in here and add cataloging and save, you'll see cataloging moves up to something that's found in my resume and a new keyword takes its place. So while you're editing, you can see things that are there, things that you might want to add and continue making those changes. Now, here are a few tips to keep in mind with your experience entries. You want to look at the job description to find those keywords and match your specific experience and accomplishments to those needs. Whenever possible, include numbers or figures to make your achievements quantifiable and use action verbs. So for example, I included a statistic of reaching 70 plus families in the first year of a program that I did. That's a very concrete number that an employer can look at and see the impact of. You'll want to highlight 2 or 3 achievements per job, focusing on those that are the best match for this position. Remember, the goal here is that you're going to get that interview, which will give you a chance to elaborate on other examples in the future. And you'll likely want to include the most detail on your most recent position, since this is where you probably have the most impact. Once you've got your experience where you want it, you would move on to your education. Again, LinkedIn will build this section from the entries on your profile. And I have the same 2 options that I had before. I can use that plus sign to add a new entry, or I can use the pencil icon to edit or delete individual entries. This is going to look a little bit different though. When I click on the box to edit, this section doesn't give me any tips for writing. It just gives me the text that I can edit. And for each of these entries, I can put in my school name, I can put in the degree that I earned, my field of study, start and end dates, or anticipated end date if you're still in school. And I have space to include a brief description if I would like. So if you do choose to include a description with your education, that's a great way to point out if you have a specific concentration or field of study. For example, I have a Master of Library Science, but I did a focus in youth services as part of that program, which I highlighted in my description here. You can also add details about certificates that you've earned, awards and honors, certifications, or even professional development if it's appropriate. Once you've made your changes, you can go ahead and hit save, and those will apply. Now, your education section is often the shortest portion of your resume, and most entries are going to be 30 words or less. It's really just highlighting what degrees you have and maybe 1 or 2 details. If the job that you're applying for requires a specific degree, make sure that yours is included on your resume. Including your GPA is optional, especially if you've been out of school for a few years. You may want to include those awards, honors, certificates, or professional development that directly relate to the job as part of your education. But if you don't have a specific degree, it's okay to skip this section altogether as well and include other information in the following sections that might be a better fit for you. Right underneath our education is where we will get into licenses and certifications. Once again, LinkedIn is going to include everything that you have on your profile, but you might not need everything on your resume. Look for things that are required, preferred, or most relevant to the job you're applying for. And just like before, if you need to add something, you can use that plus sign icon to add, or if you need to edit or delete, you'll use the pencil icon next to the individual entries. This section doesn't include a lot of context, so it is important that the entries that you include are obviously relevant to that particular position. Each entry is going to include the name of the license or certification, the issuing organization, which is generally a professional organization or accrediting body, basically, who gave you this certification. If you happen to have a credential ID for that certificate, it would go into that box as well. And then you can put in the issue and expiration date if appropriate as well. But you'll see I don't really have any option to tell you what this is. So if I don't think it's going to be helpful to an employer to say that I have this training, it's just as easy for me to delete it. So let's say I have some LinkedIn Learning certificates on here. I'm going to go ahead and delete those off. They're useful. I don't mind having them on my profile, but they don't add anything into my resume. So I can clean up that section very easily by just deleting those things out. A couple of things to keep in mind with this section. Online courses and certificates are not necessarily certifications. So again, think about the specific requirements or preferred licenses of the job that you're applying for. You only want to include entries that demonstrate your industry experience and transferable skills. You want them to clearly add to your value as a candidate if possible. If you're not sure, you can leave them off and you can always bring them up in an interview with an employer. And finally, you may want to highlight particularly relevant licenses and certifications as part of your experience or your summary as well. And those are just other places that you can tie in that information if you don't want to have this section on your resume, or if you want to make sure that it's highlighted in more than one spot. Are there any questions about your experience, education, or licenses?
It looks like there's no questions for right now.
All right, that is going to bring us to our skills. Now, your LinkedIn profile allows you to list up to 50 skills, but your resume can only include 10. So you'll want to pay careful attention to this section to make sure your listed skills best match the job that you're applying for. Again, think about the keywords from the job description and consider having a combination of hard or technical skills and soft skills. The only option here that I have is my little pencil icon to edit. And that lets me know how many skills I have listed, how many I have remaining. If I want to get rid of a skill, I would just click on the X next to it. And you'll see I have a remaining skill box that now pops up that I can add in another skill. I can do that as often as I need to. And if I wanted to add in a new skill, I would just type in the box and you'll see it starts giving me some different recommendations. I can choose the one that's most appropriate and make those changes. Once I've made all the changes that I need to, I can go ahead and hit save. Again, this section is not specifically required in your resume, so you can choose to delete it if you don't want to highlight those skills as well. But if you are including skills, make sure that you're as specific as possible. So for example, it might be a better fit for me to say that I'm skilled in Microsoft Word as opposed to just Microsoft Office. That lets an employer know specifically what program I'm comfortable with. You only want to include skills that are relevant to that particular position. And it's okay if you have a different skills list on each resume. For example, if I was not applying for a position doing collection development, it might make sense for me to go ahead and take that off. It doesn't apply. You also want to weave the skills you list here into your experience and summary descriptions to reinforce them. So if I'm listing out here that I'm skilled in youth services, it will make sense for you to see youth services come up again in the jobs that I've had, the projects that I'm highlighting, or the summary that I'm writing. Let's go ahead and close out of our skills there. All right, the very last section that we have included here is our honors and awards. As with previous sections, you'll only want to include those that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. It's also completely okay to eliminate this section if you don't have something you want to highlight. I have two options from this section. I can use that plus sign to add something that may be missing, or I can use that pencil icon to edit individual entries. It's important that you demonstrate how any honors and awards you're including translate to your value as an employee. As you edit, keep your formatting consistent so that entries are understandable. And you'll see on here that each entry includes the name of the award, the issuer or who gave it to you, the date that you received it, and then you have an option to include that description. This is another place that if I were to drop in a keyword, LinkedIn would recognize that and update that keyword list for me. If I don't want something, let's say, you know what, this one isn't relevant. I can go ahead and hit delete. That same pop-up comes up to confirm that I'm getting rid of that information as not being relevant. Now, here are a few tips to keep in mind. If you do include awards, you want them to be current, especially as they relate to your industry. And you want to avoid using technical jargon and make sure that any description that you have is short but clear. Again, you can elaborate in more detail once you've landed that interview. You can use action-oriented verbs or keywords to quantify and explain the impact of your achievement. And if you don't want to include your awards as a separate section, you can also just list them in the description of your related experience. Just to give you an idea of what it would look like if I chose not to include this section, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these out really quick. And once I've done that, you'll see the placeholder information. So you'd still have the option to add in, but you'll see LinkedIn gives you a little note here that says it's empty and won't appear on your resume. And that's how you know that you have an option to include it, but you don't have to worry about there being weird gaps when you actually download and print. Are there any questions about skills and awards?
It looks like there's no questions.
Okay, so we've gone through how to customize the different sections of our resume. The next thing we're ready to do is download and rename our files. So the resumes that we create in LinkedIn can be accessed from my profile at any time. And if you are creating multiple versions of your resume, it may be useful to rename each one so you can easily recognize it and you know which documents you want to work with. So up at the very top of the screen, you should see where it says resumes, and then you see the resume title. If I click on the pencil icon there, I can rename this document. I can put a date with it. I could put a job title with it and hit save. And that lets me know what my document is. When I click on resumes, I can see all of the resumes that I have listed in that list and easily jump in between them if I need to as well. You'll also see a preview button over here in the right corner, and that lets me take a peek at what my completed resume is going to look like. I can easily see how many pages it is and what it's going to look like when printed. And this is a good way to quickly check that everything looks good before you actually download a copy. So I'll go ahead and click preview. And you'll see that it opens up that little preview. I can see my resume is currently 4 pages. So I might decide, you know what? I want to go ahead and make that a little bit shorter. Or I might notice, oh, this description is cutting off and onto 2 pages. I'm going to shorten it up. Once I click off, I can get back into that editing window and make any additional changes that I need to. Now, once you've made all the changes that you want, you can also download a PDF copy of your resume. And this is what you'll want to do if you want to actually submit that resume as part of a job application. In the right-hand corner, you'll click where it says more, and that will give you your options. You can download your resume as a PDF. You can make a copy of this resume, which is a great way to make quick adjustments if you want to keep most of the information the same. Say the only thing you want to change is your skill list, but you like what everything else looks like. You can make a quick copy, make those changes, rename the document, and keep going. You can also delete a resume if you no longer need it. Now, if you remember back to the beginning of today's class, we did talk about a second option for creating your resume. We've walked through how to create your resume from your LinkedIn profile, and now I'm going to go back to talk about how to upload an existing resume. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and download this as a PDF really quick, just so we have access to it. So I could either go all the way back to the resume builder. I could go back to my profile, click more, get back to the resume builder that way. Or if you're still in your resume window, if you click on resumes, you get back to that option as well. And this time I'm going to choose upload resume. Once you've done that, you will navigate to the location on your computer where your document is and select it. Once that document pops up, you should be able to hit next. And we are right back to the choose a desired job title screen that we started with. So once again, I'll go ahead and select one that makes sense to me. And I'll hit apply so that my resume insights show up. Now, this window is going to be a little bit different. My document's going to open up in the browser, but I can't make any edits. I can just preview the different pages. I can't really do anything with it. Now, the keyword check feature is still going to review the keywords that I have, and it will still suggest additional keywords that I might want to add to my resume. And then underneath, my formatting check now has the option to review formatting. And when I click on that, it's going to walk me through the different sections of my resume to review for common formatting issues and highlight any potential problems. So it's scanned and it's found my name and my email, but it's flagging that it doesn't see a location, a phone number, or a website. So I might want to add that information. Then it will walk me through my summary if there's anything I want to change there. It'll walk through my experience and show the information that's not showing up. It'll walk through my education, tell me the same things that I might want to check for. And then finally, it's going to look at my skills. And it's going to tell me some key skills that it has pulled out of my resume. And I can go ahead and click done when I'm finished reviewing. Now, this is where I have a couple of different choices. If this was a Word document that I had saved on my computer, I could choose to open up Word, make those changes, and just use LinkedIn as a way to scan the content. However, if I want to make those changes directly within LinkedIn, I do have the option to choose Open with Resume Builder. And when I do that, it will convert my file into a LinkedIn file where I can make all of the changes just like we were doing before. Now you'll notice formatting doesn't always carry over when we do that. So my summary looks a little bit special. I've got some random spaces in here that I might not need. I've got duplicate information where my dates are copying incorrectly. If I scroll all the way down to my skills, LinkedIn has arbitrarily assigned some skills that may or may not make sense to my resume, so I might want to change those. So I'll still need to go in and make all of the edits, but now I can do that without having to open up a separate program. Are there any questions about uploading a resume into the resume builder?
No questions in the chat.
Okay, the very last thing that we're going to talk about is converting PDF files. Now, LinkedIn only allows you to download a PDF version of your completed resume. And when you have a PDF document, you can't easily edit that document without having specific software. However, there are a couple of workarounds that may let you work with your PDF and other programs. I'd like to demonstrate how to open your PDF in Microsoft Word and also in Google Docs so that you can edit it. So what we're going to do here is switch our view so that you can see my whole screen. And we're going to pop over to my downloads here to open up a PDF in Microsoft Word. So this is my resume that I downloaded. What I could do is go ahead and right click on that document and scroll down to open with. And here is where I'm going to choose Word, the version of Word that I have installed on my computer. And it's going to pop up and give me this window confirming that I want to convert. I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And that will start the file conversion process. You will most likely notice that your file opens in protected view, and you'll need to click Enable Editing and reconfirm to be able to make those changes. And now I can actually type and make changes in the document. Now you will notice that this isn't perfect. Some of my words may run together. My formatting might get lost. So you will want to check that type of information before you actually save and send out your resume. So I can go in here, add in my spaces. I can delete information. I can reorder information and have more formatting than I did have in LinkedIn. Now, let's say that I want to do the same thing, but I want to open up my PDF in Google Drive instead. I'm going to go ahead and go over to my Google account, and I would sign in. And this is where I could upload my file, and I would just do a new file upload, find my resume. And once that upload is complete, I can actually work with that document. Now you'll see that Google opens it in a preview for me. I can choose that open with Google Docs, which will convert my file into a Google Docs file that I can edit. It does, however, also save my original PDF file. So if I were to go over to my Google Drive, you'll see I've got the PDF version and this Google Docs version in here as well. But just like in Microsoft Word, I can type, I can make changes. I do want to double check my formatting, make sure that it's held together, make sure I don't have any spacing issues or spelling issues. But that gives me the option to make those edits as well. Are there any questions about converting a PDF file?
No questions right now.
All right, so that does conclude our information on the LinkedIn Resume Builder. And before we go, I'd like to share just a few more library resources with you. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I will go back to the question that we had about hiding some of our profile information once we've gone through this as well. So let's pop back over to our slideshow. All right. If you do have a short question that you'd like library staff to answer, you may submit it online at any time using our Ask a Librarian service. A librarian will usually respond within 48 hours with the information that you need. If you would like more one-on-one help from one of our librarians, about 30 minutes, and the chance to go over your specific questions, you can complete a Book a Librarian appointment request. Each session is tailored to your specific needs and is compatible with your schedule. Our blog, Plano Library Learns, includes book lists, program recordings, and other useful information. You can explore more business and career resources from the associated tab on the blog. You can also view past programs on our YouTube channel. And remember, you will receive a link to the recording from today's class in a few days as well. You can also access our course handouts and information at any time via the Google Drive. All right. Now I will go back over to LinkedIn so that we can talk about customizing our profile information. Let me go over to my profile. Now, if I want my profile to either be hidden from searches or I only want some information to show, this would be where I would go under Edit Public Profile and URL from my profile page, and that should show up in the top right corner. And this is where I can edit the visibility of my profile. So I can turn that profile on or off. If I turn that profile off, no one will be able to find me. If I turn it back on again, then people can see me. And I can also choose how much information is available. So I can show that information to only people I've directly connected with, to all members, or to people who are within my network that I may or may not be directly connected with. And I will turn all of that information on and off using that show hide button. So I can choose to show or hide my current experience or information in that way. So for my profile, I have set up that some detail is shown to anyone who wants to connect with me, but my more detailed information is only shown to people that I have directly connected with. And you will see as I make those changes, that preview on the left-hand side will automatically show what it looks like as I apply it. You also have the option within your profile to change what updates are shared with your network in your privacy settings. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in next week's class. So if you'd like to make updates to your profile, but you don't want to flag people that you're making those updates, you can choose to keep those updates private as well. Are there any final questions before we close out today's program?
Someone asked, when is the next class and how to register?
Absolutely. Our next class will be LinkedIn job searching, and that will be held next Wednesday, October 17th at 1 p.m. What you'll want to do to register for that is go over to our website, planolibrary.org, and you can actually view our library program schedule to see upcoming programs, or you can do the calendar view. And when you scroll down to, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong date. I believe I said the 17th. It's actually the 20th. When you click on that LinkedIn for Career Success on the calendar, that has given us the wrong link. And we don't want to register for that one. So we're going to try going back through the individual pages. If you go down to business and career, where you see LinkedIn job searching, there's a little mouse with an R on it. If you click on that, it will take you to the correct link to register for that class, which I'm also going to drop into the chat as well. And just like this class, you'll get the reminder email with the login information for that program. We do ask that you please take a moment to complete our program survey as you exit today's program, which should pop up when you exit the program and may also be sent to you via email as well. We do value your feedback and we use that information to help determine future programs that we offer at the library. Once again, thank you for joining us for today's class, and we hope that you have a wonderful afternoon.